Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this video I'm going to go through and discuss the differences between De La Rue printings, Harrison printings, and Somerset House printings on the King Edward VII stamps of Great Britain. I'm not going to go through every single value in the set because I don't have some of the values in stock or in the sale. But I think you'll find that I'm going to present enough examples and enough details that you should be able to work with the other values based on what I'm showing you here and have a reasonably good chance of being able to sort them according to Gibbons. There are some names given to colors and gibbons that to me don't really square up or comport with what appears in front of you, and I'll comment on that where it's appropriate in order to help guide you. So I'm going to turn the camera around because this is going to be a slideshow of slides that I've taken from the stamps that I've studied. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I'm just going to take it off the tripod right now, turn it around, and we'll go through the values. Now they're not all in order. They're mostly in order, but the way I tackled this week was I started with the halfpenny, and it took all day for me to do the halfpenny, and so I skipped over the 1 penny and did the rest of the values and then circled back. So you're going to see it appear in that order. So just to turn the camera around here. Okay, so here we have the halfpenny stamps for De La Rue. Now, the one on the left is dated March 3rd, 1911, which is in the Harrison period, but it's not a Harrison stamp. Now, with the halfpenny, as with all De La Rues, the quality of the design is fairly good in terms of the lines being uniform. The shading lines are clear around the portrait. If you look here, the shading lines don't extend all the way up to the crown. Like they're strong only in the upper right and upper left spandrels here. As they move in toward the crown, they get quite weak. And as you'll see on the Harrison printings, they're much stronger here. But the big giveaway is the clarity of the lines here. They're not blurry, they're not jagged, they're nice and smooth. The color also, as you'll see, is partly a giveaway there as well. This is the yellowish green in the De La Rue. It looks darker here on the screen, I think, than it does in practice, but you know, the blue-green is an obvious one because that only exists De La Rue. Okay, so here we've got a typical Harrison. Now, if you look, this one is the bluish green, which is one of the better shades. But you can see the shading lines here. They go all the way up to the crown. You can also see that the shading lines are a little bit rougher here. The printing just looks coarser, especially the leaves and the veins on the leaves. Everything just looks a lot less clear. These are more Harrisons again, you know, heavy printing, less clear. These ones are a little bit more clear than the ones at the top, but you can see the color. It's much darker shade of green, and it's less yellowish and less pale than the De La Rue. This one here is the bright green with the fine impression. This is a Harrison. You see, again, the shading lines go all the way up to the crown, but this time everything is a nice fine detail, and the color is unmistakable. It's very bright green. It's quite unlike anything else in the De La Rue period. Okay, now here we've got a Somerset House printing of the 1.5 penny. The easiest way to tell this is the claret or reddish purple color here and the darker green. That color, all the purples in the De La Rue period are slate purples and dull purples. They're not red purples. So that's an easy one. There's the contrasting De La Rue slate purple. And you can see everything looks kind of flat, but the detail in the design is still fairly clear. This one here, this is a little more tricky. This is a Somerset House in the slate purple, or the Somerset House is slate purple. Here, the main giveaway is the green. Okay, that bright green that's around here, that doesn't exist on De La Rue printings. It's not that bright. And that's what tips it off that this is a Somerset House. And then if you look, the impression's a little bit rougher than a De La Rue. Okay, here's the 2-penny. This is a De La Rue on chalky paper. The smoothness of the printing is what gives it away for chalky. You can usually see the chalky coating under a loupe. You can see all kinds of pores on the surface, which will be missing from an ordinary paper stamp. But there you can see the typical dull green of De La Rue printings. It's not blue, it's a dull grayish green. And that's a good example of the unfaded color. Okay. Now here's a Somerset House, and you can see big difference, much darker green without any gray. And instead of being, if we go back, that's Carmen in the duty plate. But here, this isn't Carmen. It doesn't have any blue to the red. It's just a red color. So that's how you identify Somerset House there. Okay, here we got the 2.5-penny. This is De La Rue. Very clear again. Very clear lines, clean lines. Ultramarine is the color. And it's unmistakably De La Rue. Then here we've got a Harrison, and this is supposed to be the dull blue. And again, it's totally different color. Again, the shading lines go all the way up to the crown. Here, the printing impression isn't too rough, but the big difference here is the color. It's just not matching anything that De La Rue would have from that time. This one's a little bit closer. It's brighter blue than the dull blue, but it's nowhere near as bright as this ultramarine. And again, here the printing impression's a little bit rougher. Okay, so here is a 3-penny on chalky paper. Now, the 3-penny is a little tricky because all the shades in Gibbons are described as shades of purple on various yellow or lemon papers. The shade here is really a dark brown. It's not really purple. And in fact, a lot of what appears to be purple a lot of times is washed out, faded color. Okay, so this one here is, this is a De La Rue, unsurfaced. And this is what they call the orange-yellow paper. And as you can see, it's not orange at all. It's just a basic full yellow. And there it is on the back. Not orange, in my opinion, at all. Just a basic full yellow. The lemon paper, on the other hand, looks like this. And lemon always has a slight greenish hue to the yellow. And that's what this has here. It's a pale yellow. And that's how you can sort the difference between those two. But if you're looking for orange yellow, like a true orange yellow, you're not going to find it. This is a Harrison. Harrison is closest to De La Rue on this value in terms of the overall quality of the printing. It's not very rough on the 3 pennies. But the lemon color, the washed out color of the paper is really the giveaway here. And the fact that the brown is closer to a gray brown than a red or brown. Okay, now here, the 4-penny orange, we've got a Harrison printing, which is always, the Harrison oranges are always bright and intense compared with the De La Rues. So here's a De La Rue. Gibbons describes them as having red or gray in the color. You can kind of see the grayish hue or the grayish cast to this color when you compare it to this very deep bright color. Like this can't be described as having really any gray. It could be described as red, but it's too bright. Whereas this one is just the orange red. Also, this is a finer printing again than this, although the difference is not that marked on the 4-penny. Okay, now we go to the 5. So here we've got a typical De La Rue in dull purple and ultramarine, and those are the main colors. The value tablet, clear ultramarine, and a clear dull purple. Whereas here, on the Somerset House printing that's here, that's a blue. That 5-penny, that's blue, that's not ultramarine. And the purple is, it's not a dull purple the way the De La Rue is. It doesn't have that sort of milky color. It's more of a almost plum and a deeper, slightly brownish purple. It's the slate purple is darker for De La Rue and has a bit more of a grayish cast. So it's just the wrong shade of purple to be a De La Rue. Okay, there's a typical dull purple De La Rue on the 6-penny. And that's a good example of what the true dull purple ink looks like on a De La Rue. And then here we have a Somerset House. So here it just doesn't have the gray that the dull purple would have. It's got kind of a reddish purple undertone to it, and that's what distinguishes it as a Somerset House. Now this is a complicated value, and there are other purples like royal purple and magenta and shades that I don't actually have to show you here. And maybe in the future one day I'll do a whole video on the 6-penny if I get enough of them. There's a slightly brighter reddish purple with a 1912 cancel. Here the printing impression is not that rough. It's almost as good as a De La Rue. The only real difference here is the color, it being unmistakably reddish compared with the normal De La Rue colors. Okay, so the 7-penny, this is probably the trickiest of the low values. Gibbons describes the gray-black or the slate of the De La Rue as having a slate appearance, whereas the Somerset House printings all have a bit of olive in the gray. So this is a De La Rue, and this is a Somerset House. The scan doesn't really reflect it very well, but this color here has a bluish cast to it, whereas this color, you can see there's a bit of an olive cast to the gray. And also the cancel is December 1912, which places it in that period. The 9-penny, okay, again, it's color primarily. So this is a not so great used copy of the slate purple and ultramarine. And again, the ultramarine is very obviously ultramarine. There's no confusion with it being a blue. You've got the slate purple color, which again only De La Rue had that. Okay, there's the Somerset House, and again you can see, the slate purple has been replaced by reddish purple, and the ultramarine, which was quite bright on this stamp, just becomes dull and a blue as opposed to an ultramarine on this stamp. Okay, the Shilling, I don't have any really nice copies of it again, but here we've got the typical De La Rue dark gray-green, and the Carmen, typical Carmen. Whereas here, this is a trickier Somerset House printing. Your Carmen is more of a red than, okay, I gotta go back, than this color. So you can see the Carmen here has a definite bluish undertone, whereas here it's more of a rich red, deep Carmen red. And the green here is darker, without the gray that this has. Right, it's just a pure dark green. That's what distinguishes it as being Somerset House. Although it's one of the trickier shades. And then here you've got the dark green, but you've got clear scarlet in the frame instead of Carmen, and that is clearly a Somerset House printing. Okay, so now we move on to the penny. And there you've got a typical De La Rue with a cheddar cancel. And that's clear scarlet. No hint of Carmen there at all, or rose red. And again, you can see now on the penny it's a little trickier because the shading lines go all the way up, whereas they don't on the halfpenny. But there you can see, contrast that with a typical Harrison, and again you can see here much duller color, and that's mainly it. The printing's a little bit rougher, but the color is just duller. And then here we've got, this is actually a very scarce deep rose Carmen shade of the Harrison. And you can see the bluish undertone in the color there and the rough lines. And so that's it. That's a good overview of the differences between the printings. So I hope you found that useful. And go in and look at your stamps and see if you can spot any treasures. Until next time, happy stamping. Bye.